Your worth is priceless, and it's not about you. And so I think if we can start to make the distinction between our worth and then the worth of the service we provide, it's going to be a lot easier to understand tangibly how we need to charge for that. It is a service. It has nothing to do with you. Yes, of course, you are a huge part of that service and you are your brand, but let's focus on the value of the service you provide.
All right. I'm Rebecca Hay, and I've built a successful interior design business by trial and error, podcasts, online courses, and so many freaking books. Over the last decade, I've grown from an insecure student to having false starts to careers, and now I'm finally in the place where I want to be. Throughout my journey, it's been pretty obvious that I'm passionate about business and helping other entrepreneurs do the same. Each week, I'll share tangible takeaways from my own experience and the experiences of other badass women to help you build your confidence and change your business.
Hey, it's Rebecca, and you are listening to Resilient by Design. Today's episode is a rebroadcast of an excellent episode about pricing your design services. Do you ever dream truly of working with a client that you present your fee to, they don't bat an eyelash, they sign on the dotted line, and then boom, you're off to the races? Yeah, that's kind of the dream. And I can tell you, it's possible. You can do it. And today's episode is all about that. In this rebroadcast, that is a really powerful episode, I will share the steps and the insights to help you address fears and the myths that are keeping you from charging the right value for your knowledge, expertise, and luxury design services. I'm going to dive into the questions that you need to ask yourself ahead of time, how you can calculate your new rate, and how to communicate it, along with some real-life examples from my own very recent experience. So guys, you're going to love this. If you struggle to price your services or charging what you know you probably could charge, this episode is for you.
Okay, let's have some real talk for a second here. Most interior design firm owners and most creative entrepreneurs are not charging enough for their services. Yeah, sure, there are a few people out there that are really charging and they're killing it and they're doing awesome. But I can tell you from what I've seen in the hundreds of design professionals that are in my community, actually over 1,000 members in our Facebook group, the majority of these creatives are not charging what their service is worth. And I just want to make a distinction here where I say charging what your service is worth. You'll notice that I did not say charging what you are worth, because your worth is priceless and it's not about you. And so I think if we can start to make the distinction between our worth and then the worth of the service we provide, it's going to be a lot easier to understand tangibly how we need to charge for that. It is a service. It has nothing to do with you. Yes, of course, you are a huge part of that service and you are your brand, but let's focus on the value of the service you provide. So many designers ask questions like, how do you go about increasing your rate on an existing job? When is it time to increase your rate? Should I charge more for a consultation? This project's dragging on. Can I now go back to the client to charge more money? Okay, I'm going to answer all of these questions. Let's talk about why you need to increase your rates. Beyond the fact that it's obviously a service that you provide, and if you have been working hard at delivering on your promises with your clients, you are probably offering a really great service. It's likely rather a high-end service. Don't forget that as designers, as creatives, as decorators, we are a luxury. We offer a service that people need. They can't do it themselves, otherwise they would. So keep that in mind. You need to increase your rate also because shit's gotten really expensive. Like, hello? Inflation, anyone? Cost of goods and labor, anyone? We are not unaffected by this. And I think you are kidding yourself if you think you can't increase your rates when everything else around you is becoming more expensive. The only way that you can keep up with inflation and keep up with the cost of goods and labor and shoot, Even salaried employees cost more. Even contractors are costing more. If you want to bring those people onto your team, if you want to buy product and pay your rent, pay your mortgage with the increase in rates, you also need to increase your fees. Also, you're probably just not charging enough. And I feel like this is probably the most important reason to raise your rates, regardless of inflation. And fortunately for you listening there, design firm owner, you have an excuse now to raise your rates. But I'm guessing that even before inflation hit and before all this craziness, you probably weren't charging enough. Most creatives do not. Keep in mind as well, if you charge more money, you can afford to hire, which means you can deliver a more exceptional service because you will have the team to support you. It will free you up to do more sales, to be with your clients, to be creative, to start a podcast. Heck, whatever you dream of, you can do when you start to scale and hire. The only way you can do that is if you charge more money for your services. Okay, let's all agree that we're on the same page and we need to make more money. Let's dive into exactly how to do this. So, first of all, though, I want you to ask yourself a question. If you are raising your rates, is this for future projects? Or are you really hungry to raise rates inside a current existing project because you're finding you're losing money? There's a distinction here, and I want to kind of discuss both of these. If you are currently in a project and you feel like you are losing money, like you know that you didn't charge enough, like shoot, I should have probably charged more per hour, or I should have anticipated how many more hours this project was going to be, or I charged a fixed fee and oh my goodness, I've run out of their money and we've put in more time. That is an independent issue that needs to be addressed. Two key takeaways from that. One, this is a learning lesson for the next project. So you need to really review your numbers, look at the time that you and your team have put into the project so that the next time a project that's similar in scale comes along, you can say, okay, I know it's going to be this many hours because the last one, or at least it's going to be a minimum this many hours because the last one was that. That's the first thing. The second thing is you might need to have a difficult conversation with your client. I spoke to a designer recently who did just that. She charged a fixed fee for a large new build project, completely underestimated the time commitment that was required. And she had to go back to the client and say, listen, I underestimated the scope of this project and the fees that I've collected are not going to cover my time anymore. I am going to need to start to bill hourly. And guess what? The client said, I understand. And they're paying it. And now, of course, this designer is being careful to not overcharge and possibly is discounting their services. Who knows? But it is a difficult conversation, but one that needs to be had if you get to a point in a project where it's like egregiously different than what you anticipated. Now, if it's a little bit different and you just didn't estimate your hours or put your pricing structure in place accordingly, then that's kind of on you. I'm going to say this is where understanding your pricing model is so super important. And if you guys want to dive into more of that, you can check out my course. It's called Pricing with Confidence. It's like a bite-sized mini course that you can take anytime. You can just find it on my website, rebeccahay.com. And it is just a short mini course that will help you establish a pricing structure that you can use with every project and start to track the hours, start to track and understand if you are making money on a project. So definitely take that course if you haven't already and get solidified on how you structure your pricing. So that was sort of the first area. I just wanted to address that because today I want to dive into more on how to increase your rates just in general and for future projects. So specifically, if you are in a project right now and you feel like, oh my God, I need to charge more money, you need to also consider, do you have a contract? If you have a contract with that client that stipulates what your hourly rate is and et cetera, what the fee will be, it's going to be pretty hard to go back to that client for more money unless like I said before, there's something that's egregiously different or unexpected. And that is also where having an out of scope agreement is helpful. So if something pops up and you're like, this isn't really what we talked about doing, then you have an opportunity to say, I'm happy to do that, or I'm happy to spend the time on that thing. It's outside our scope. Let's sign our out of scope agreement. and we'll take a deposit, or you can pay us hourly, whatever your agreement says. You need to have a process for that so that you don't run out of money. Because honestly, there's nothing worse than being super resentful of a client or a project that is taking up more time than you expected. The client's probably difficult if this is happening. And so not only are you frustrated with the client and their asks and their wants and their needs for handholding or what have you, but you're also not making any money anymore. I've been there too many times. In fact, we just did a project like this. So I'm like, how is this happening to me right now? The whole project had to get put on hold and then was picked up again several months later. And as a result, so many extra hours were put into reselecting, refamiliarizing ourselves with the project. And we'd already signed a contract. And so I felt like I couldn't charge more money. Now I've learned my lesson. In hindsight, I've added something to my contract that sort of stipulates if there is a delay, then it will incur an additional fee. A lot of it is lessons learned. But again, if you're inside a project right now and you want to raise your rates, consider those factors. And also consider you can have that difficult conversation with a client to let them know where you are at. Because I honestly believe our clients do not want us to lose money. It's a balance between having integrity and showing up as that savvy business professional to show your clients, hey, I know what it's going to cost and this is it. So you don't want to look stupid, but at the same time, they understand that these construction projects are like living, breathing things. And I would say if you are attracting reasonable people as clients, then that conversation won't be as difficult as you think. Okay, so let's move forward to understanding how to increase your rates for future projects. So there are a few ways that are the great ways to increase your rate and communicate it to the future clients. So this could be future new clients, but it could also be repeat clients in the past that have come back to you. And I just want to remind you that it's okay to charge your new rate to past clients. There is no expectation in this world that as your business grows and as you improve and as you scale, that you are always going to be $50 an hour, or that you're always going to be $5,000 flat fee, or whatever your charge was when you started. And I think sometimes people get scared about charging a new rate to a past or repeat client because they're worried that so many things, right? We're worried about so many things, like maybe they're not going to like me anymore, or they're going to be upset, or they're not going to hire me and I won't get to do that amazing next phase of their project. You need to let those fears go, because if you're not making money, this is a hobby. It's not a business. So the first thing you need to do is you need to decide what your rate will be. And in order to do this, I highly recommend that you review past project profits. Not when it comes to product, like purchasing, lighting, and decor, and tile. Don't look at that necessarily. I want you to look at your fees and the hourly rate that you've been charging. How many hours were you charging on a project versus how many hours you actually put in, and figure out where there's an opportunity to make more money. Maybe you aren't making a ton of money. Maybe you're not even tracking your hours. It's going to be pretty hard to understand how much you should charge if you've not been tracking. If you've not been tracking, it's okay. That was me. You can still grow and get past it. But if you can do that and you can review past project profits, please do. You can also research the going rates in your town. I don't recommend you just see somebody else's hourly rate, pick it and make it your own. Like, oh, look, Julie's doing so well. Oh, she charges $150 an hour. Oh, I feel like I'm at her level. I should charge that too. But maybe Julie has fewer projects, or maybe you have 2 more employees. Whatever the variables are, you really need to look at the hourly rate or the fixed fee structure, and is it going to be profitable for you? I say this all the time inside Power of Process, but I really do believe there is a no one size fits all to running a design business. There's actually no one size fits all to running any business. There are tons of systems that you can follow and implement into your business, but it doesn't mean everyone's doing it the same way. So make sure whatever the rate is that you decide, that it's right for you. it should certainly be a dramatic enough increase. I would not increase your rate by $20 an hour. I just don't feel like that's enough. Maybe $25. I mean, I guess it's all relative to where you are. But if, let's say you're charging $85 an hour, you could probably go to $100. Or even if you're at, I remember at one point I was charging $95 an hour and I went to $120. Felt like a really big jump for me because I was passing that $100 threshold, or I think it was $125. Whatever works for you, make sure it's going to be profitable. I'll also add, for those of you who are charging a fixed fee, you want to look at like however you calculate your fixed fee, and that's something that I talk about and I share how I do it inside my pricing course. You might want to raise that. So if you charge based on a square footage, maybe that square footage dollar amount goes up. Maybe the range goes up. Is it a percentage? If you're charging based on a percentage, is it a higher percentage? And do some math and calculate, okay, if I, on a past project, if I had charged, I don't know, $25 a square foot, what would that have been? If I had charged, 18%, what would that have been? Run some numbers, do some math so you can see and get excited about the money that you can make with your new rate. Number 2, now you need to decide when you will increase your rate. And I think this is something that often gets overlooked. People are like, okay, I'm just going to raise my rate. But I think it's a missed opportunity to just all of a sudden change your rate on your website or tell a new lead the new rate. I think there's an opportunity for you to really push people to buy, to give them a little bit of an incentive by telling people in advance that your rate will be going up. So I recommend you pick a date. Pick a date. I recommend approximately 2 months in the future, which will give people time to prepare. January is the new year, and then September feels like the new year, back to school, everything in the fall, everyone's starting to settle back in. It just feels like a time of renewal. So those would be the most popular times to raise your rates, but you don't have to wait until then. So that's number 2. Decide when you're going to increase it. My favorite way to share this new rate. And I've seen this done, and I'm going to give an example to you guys in a minute of this being done with me on the receiving end as a repeat client. But the best way to do this is with email. So if you don't have an email list, guys, this is your friendly reminder to get one. And I'm just going to sidetrack for a second there, because if you're listening and you're like, what do you mean an email list? What I mean is creating like a newsletter and sending, and if you don't need fancy software like ActiveCampaign or SurveyMonkey or Flowdesk to do this when you're starting. When I started, I literally would just send a BCC to myself, I would send an email to myself and BCC people, and I would create groups. I think I did this in Gmail, and it was to past clients, family, and friends. To be completely honest, that's how it started. And then I graduated to using, it'll come to me. You know what I mean. We use ActiveCampaign now, but before that we used something else that I completely have blanked on. And what that is it's a email service provider, so it can send the email on your behalf. It looks like it's coming from you, but essentially you can do this on a regular basis. If you've never done it before, I recommend maybe you send it once a quarter. And you just send a newsletter, and there's a few things in there. And I mean, we can talk about this on another podcast, but I used to share this actually inside my momentum marketing course. So I can pull those slides out, maybe teach that here on the podcast a bit. But essentially, it's a great way to stay in touch and stay top of mind with past clients, potential clients, family, friends, anyone who you think could recommend you as a designer. So if you have an email list, that's where I recommend you mention that you will be increasing your rates. I want you to announce the rate change to your email list and let them know that the rate is coming. The reason I suggest this instead of boom, this is our new rate, it will work to give them the opportunity to book now. It creates a sense of urgency, which in marketing is very powerful. If they know that if they book before September 1, they will get you at your existing hourly rate, or I love this technique for raising your consultation fee. If they know that in September, your consultation fee is going up from $500 to $750, then this is incentive for them to book it now. It might bring some more design work into your pipeline. So you could do this for increasing your consultation fee or increasing your design fees, but give them the opportunity to schedule a call, to book time with you, give them an incentive to do it. And then number 4 is don't make any exceptions. This is a hard one. This is a really, really hard one. Unless, of course, you're in the middle of a job and you're working on an existing hourly rate or someone's already booked a consultation with you, I do not recommend you change pricing on them unless it's a situation like we talked about earlier, but don't make exceptions. You need to stand firm. So anyone who reaches out to you after September 1st, they get the new rate. And you just immediately update any information that you have. So if you have any, some people call them an investment guide. I just call it our About Us document that I send to clients. And it's sort of working with Rebecca Hay Designs. And we have our fee structure in there. Make sure all the paperwork and all the documentation, internal and externally, is up to date. If you've got a link in bio, make sure the price is there. Make sure that's updated. Make sure your website's updated, so that there can be no confusion. And if somebody comes back to you who perhaps you had a call with like 6 months prior, and they're like, oh, well, we've now decided, but can you honor the consultation rate? Okay, this is going to sound super harsh, but I'm going to say no. Like, shit, that was on them. They shouldn't have freaking dragged their heels and waited. And let's be honest, if it's a consultation fee, it's like the difference is not going to be that severe. It's not like you're going from $10,000 to $30,000. Like if it's a couple $100 more, because you need to pre-qualify and know that they see the value in what you're doing. If they're trying to negotiate from the get-go, red flag. Okay, so I just want to share an example of this. I received an email from a photographer I worked with, and it was such a great email. Honestly, I received the email as an existing customer. The way that it was written, it made me actually feel grateful to this photographer and eager to support the photographer's business moving forward, even at the new rate. The beginning of the email, and I think it's important to know that the subject line of this email was important photography update, which made me open it, to be quite honest, right? It wasn't like new rates or our prices are going up. It was just an update. And the email content had more information than just the rate increase, which I think is really important. In the email, the photographer shared the value of the photography business and how they were planning to add more value. So it made the rate increase feel completely warranted. So the beginning of the email, I'm just going to read you the very first sentence because I think it was really great. It says, hello and happy new year. So it's worth noting that this email did come in January. As I mentioned, New Year's a great time to raise your rates. It says, I hope this email finds you well. What a strange last 2 years we had. It was incredibly busy for us all, and something tells me this new year will be no different. There have been a few important changes this year in my photography services that I would like to share with you. So here we go. And then the photographer proceeds to put sections. There's bolded subheadings and sections so that I could skim the email and grab and read what I thought was interesting. So the first section said photography assistant. So he introduced us to the photography assistant, gives some information on that assistant's background. And it's exciting. Welcome this person. So far, no mention of money. Then next section, photo editor and retoucher. Okay, so now this photographer has brought on a new photo editor and who this person is and their skill set and what their knowledge is of Photoshop. It's going to provide you with a faster turnaround and even better editing. Then there's a photo shoot form. So I'm happy to introduce our new photo shoot form. It's designed for us to stay more organized, make sure we have all the information. Again, providing more value to the customer. Then equipment, photography equipment was the next section. It says, I'm always looking for new and better equipment to provide the highest quality of images available. I've made recent upgrades to camera equipment and lighting, as well as new and more powerful editing machines. I can't wait to show it off. You see what's happening here, right? Each section is showing you that this person is investing in their business but also without saying it, they have more expenses. And then the next section says pricing and payments. And this is where you can scroll right to this section if you're like, oh, what's going on here, and read it. The photographer goes on to say there have been a few changes to our pricing and payment structure. The photography rate has changed from blah to blah. Please see attached photography information for details. The new rate starts immediately for all new clients. If we worked together in the past, I'm extending the original rate until date. So the date was May. So that was so January, February, March, April, May. This photographer gave existing clients a 5-month heads up, which I think is extremely generous. And then they went on to say that the rate was originally planned to change in 2020, but because of COVID, they decided to postpone the increase. And then they talk about a little bit of change to their invoicing process and reminds everyone that ownership, they get all the ownership and rights to their images. And then there's two more sections. One says near future. This is where the photographer talks about their goal to introduce a new service in the future, and they're working on partnering with a stylist and some exciting things. And then at the end, a huge thank you is the last section. Thank you for your great support over the years. It means the world to me. I'll continue to do my best to provide you with images we can all be proud of and share with our new and existing clients. All the best, blah, blah, blah. I just thought I wanted to share that here today because I think it was a really great way of announcing that you're charging more money. The focus of the email was not about the money. It was about providing value and improving and increasing the value that they provide to their customer. So hopefully that gives you some ideas of how you could do something similar with your clients. Ultimately, you need to value the service you provide and ensure that you're charging the right amount in order to attract those ideal clients. Because quite frankly, if you're too cheap, you could turn off the clients that you want to serve. I'm going to tell you a quick story. I recently was interviewing companies to help me with my next course launch. As you know, Vera has taken a step down as being my marketing coordinator. She's still our podcast producer, which is amazing. She's really stepped into that role, but she's not managing the courses and my marketing and social media like she was before. So I knew I needed to hire someone, but I didn't think I needed a full-time person because Power of Process only launches twice a year. And, I might reduce it to once a year. So I don't need full 365-day support with the course, to market the course, to help get the course up and running, service our students, and what have you. And so I was referred a few different names of companies to help with the launch. The first company I chatted with sounded super duper capable. They have a team. They do this all the time. They've got great, unique ideas for marketing. They really understand what it means to launch a course, what I go through to do it. And they had a certain price tag, which I thought was a little pricey, but reasonable. The next person I chatted with said, oh, we do course launch support too, in addition to other marketing services that I had been chatting with her about. And she put together a proposal for me for a course launch. It was, I'm trying to think of how to relative, without giving the number away, like the relative size of it was like 1/8 of the cost of the other company. In fact, it was so cheap that I thought, okay, that would be like 3 weeks full-time employee for me. I was like, how is it even possible? Because I know what goes into a course launch and creating all the marketing materials and showing up and being there for the master classes and being there for the students. And I thought, this isn't even humanly possible to do it for that kind of money. And so for me, I was like, nope, she's too cheap. That's a red flag. It's telling me that she does not really understand what goes into it. And I don't want her resenting me because there's so much work that I need for her to do and she hasn't charged enough money. And so to me, I thought she doesn't have the experience or the level of expertise that I need. And let's be honest, she might, but her price point made me question her ability. So I just want that to be a reminder to you that your sticker shock may not be your client's. And just because you wouldn't pay, let's say, $10,000 for an interior designer or another professional service doesn't mean that your clients won't. So do your research, value that service, once you get that super established process, the way you do things, you're repeating it with every project, you know you can deliver, you know you're talented, but you also know you have the service that you provide, you can charge more money. Okay, there you have it, everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. I would love to hear from you guys. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, please, please, please. And leave us a 5-star review. Those reviews are so helpful. They let other people know that this is a valuable podcast, a valuable resource, and share it with a friend, because there's someone else out there today who needs to hear this advice. All right, guys, I'll see you soon. Oh, one more thing. Obviously, go check out Pricing with Confidence, RebeccaHay.com/pricing, because that is where I'm going to give you all the detailed behind the scenes of how I calculate my design fee and how others do it too. All right, see you soon.
The Resilient by Design podcast is produced by Vera Marquez, edited by Abby Circatella, and hosted by yours truly, Rebecca Hay.